Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Although today it's not just going to be me yapping. We've got the GOAT, one of the GOATs from the GOAT District, Dan Williamson. You've been seeing him all over PlayerProfiler recently. You've been, of course, seeing him on Fantasy Empire, really all over the place. One of the greatest fantasy football analysts out there. So I'm so excited to have him this morning to chop it up for some fantasy football stuff as we head into week 8. You're going to get our season reactions. You're going to get our season look ahead. We're going to get some buy, sells, hot takes, all that great stuff. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Dan the man, how's it going?
Going great, Jason. Thanks for having me. And I'm just gonna spend the rest of the show attempting to live up to the intro that you gave me. So it's gonna be tough, though. Gotta say.
Hey, it's okay. There's no intro quite like the one you got on the Mind a Mansion just a couple weeks ago. I'll never beat the Bulls intro. I'll never beat that.
Yep, exactly. So that was a pretty good one for sure.
So Dan, I'm excited to have you here. I mean, you're genuinely are. You're one of the best out there. I love all the content you're putting out, all the shows that you do. You have some great advice, and I think that we're going to answer some questions in a really good way and help out the audience today. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I think you've got some great questions out there, and I'm looking forward to it. And this is such a great time of year too, because we have the NFL trade deadline coming up. Yep. We have teams are. Your fantasy teams are kind of figuring out who they are at this point, and you know what you need to do to compete. So, everybody's kind of jockeying for position right now. So it's a fun time of year.
It is. It really is. I'm getting more trade offers than I have been all season now. Those are finally starting to pour in, sending them out a little bit more. It's like we're back at rookie draft season almost. It's everyone's kind of figuring their shit out, and it's nice. Yeah, it's real nice.
No doubt about it. It's one of my favorite little stretches right here, and then once the playoffs start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good run. So let's go ahead and get into it. But before we get so far into it, I know that you're probably not feeling great this morning. I know you are a Vikings fan, but I wanted to know if you had any just kind of quick thoughts about last night's game. Probably going to pertain to the Rams, but in general, what were your kind of takeaways here?
Couple takeaways is number one, I think. The Vikings have looked really good early in the first quarter when they're on their script, and when they're off, once they get off the script, they have not looked nearly as good on offense, and I think that's a little bit concerning. The Rams, it was nice to see, Kupp and Puka coming back. Both of them were a little bit load managed, but, I think Kupp showed probably more rust. Puka looked like he was pretty much stepping right in, but it just bodes good things for the Rams offense, which is a fantasy manager I'm excited to see. I've got tons of Kupp out there. I got a little bit of Puka, got some Stafford, so all those things are looking great. So I'm overall excited about it. The Vikings they're a fun team to root for. I definitely enjoy it, but I'm rooting for my fantasy teams more.
Yeah. I'm totally with you there. I totally, over the last 3 years, I'm just an NFL fan. Put me in front of the red zone. I care about too many of my teams and players. That
Exactly. I've got a TV where I can show 2 games at once, and so I'll put the Vikings on one and the red zone on the other. And more than half the time, the sound is toward the red zone rather than the Vikings game. So that's the way it goes.
Dan Williamson is a man of the people. That's how we do it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm with you as it pertains to Thursday Night Football. I don't know if it's Sam Darnold or what. I think it's Sam Darnold. I know he's putting together the right things. But like you said, when they are not on the game plan, things just kind of change. And I feel like that's just a byproduct of not having a quarterback you totally trust on this offense. I know he can get it done.
Yeah.
But can you put the team on his back? He's just not that type of quarterback. You go ahead. Sounds like you had something.
Yeah, I think that's well said. He is a little bit. I think he's more than a game manager, but not a lot more. He can make some throws that you wouldn't necessarily ask a game manager to make. And he's got the skill players around him to look good. They've got a pass. They're not going to just sit there and hand off to Aaron Jones. that would definitely be a mistake. So, they're going to ask more out of Darnold than the normal game manager, but when you boil it all down, he's probably closer to that than anything else.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. But hey, it's been a nice turnaround. And I mean, they're still 5-2 now. So the Vikings, they're still chilling. They get Hawkinson back next week. Things will probably start getting a little bit better. And I mean, still, Justin Jefferson had a great game. Sam Darnold was usable. So it wasn't like it was too bad. And yeah, the Rams, they seem to be back in a big way. I mean, that's a tough defense to do that against. I know that the Brian Flores defense has lost some steam over the last couple of weeks, but still, I mean, 4 passing touchdowns from Stafford, Cooper Kupp finding the end zone. Just awesome. I mean, really just a good game that, like you said, I've got Matthew Stafford shares as well. It's been awful the last few weeks. Those teams have lost too many games as a result of having Matthew Stafford, but hopefully we can have a little bit of a mid to late season push on my Stafford teams and get things going with everyone back on track. Now, there's a lot of rumors around trades of Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. I think that this game, especially with the win in the way they did, I don't think that's really happening. However, I do want to get your thoughts on some trades that actually did happen. So we'll start with Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. What were your takeaways from this, especially now that we've seen a week of action?
Yeah, so I think this was a move the Bills definitely had to make. They've discovered that talent does matter at wide receiver. Trying to get through the season with a bunch of wide receiver 3s and 4s and maybe a 2 just isn't going to cut it. So they went out, they got some talent. I think hopefully that's going to help unlock Kincaid, but I'm not confident about that. I'm not sure that the ceiling for Kincaid is there like we hoped it might be in fantasy. So, but it's really good for Cooper. I mean, with a week now to have absorbed the offense, I'm expecting him to, run a higher percentage of the routes and to just generally be involved more. And, he's good enough that, man, him being with Josh Allen, he's got to be absolutely in heaven right now.
Yeah, no, out of the 3 that we're going to break down, Amari Cooper to the Bills is the one I'm most excited about. I mean, this is just a wide receiver who gets it done all the time. So talented. And like you mentioned, the Bills, they tried their best not to have the alpha wide receiver. They're going back. I mean, this is just going to be Stephon Diggs the rest of the season, really. At least I think. I'm very much excited about what Amari Cooper is going to be able to bring to Buffalo. So I'm with you there. Now, what about the Davante Adams move in New York? What are your thinkings here, especially after a week of play?
Well, when Aaron Rodgers stamps his feet and demands something, he generally seems to get it. And that's what we've seen here. Obviously Adams and Rodgers have a great connection. I expect that to really heat up, once the rust gets shaken off a little bit, but it's definitely going to happen. You got to feel good about what this is going to do for Rodgers' numbers. You got to feel good about what this is going to do for Adams' numbers. I just find it kind of interesting. Rodgers is a guy who, plays around with ayahuasca and, all sorts of, stuff that is designed to open his mind, yet his brain seems to tread the same donkey path when it comes to football. I want my guys and I want, all this familiar stuff around me, and we're going to do things exactly my way, and never really seems to open his mind to, maybe we could try different things, that people haven't seen 1,000 times before.
That's a really good way to put it without being too mean to Aaron Rodgers. You can tell he's a Vikings fan and just tired of his Packers ears.
I've seen enough of Aaron Rodgers' shit over the years, so I'm happy to have him in not only a different division but a different conference.
Yeah, for sure.
But overall with the Jets, I mean, I don't think this is going to, turn the Jets necessarily into a playoff team. I think, momentum exists when it comes to franchises, and the Jets they've got awful momentum. Firing Saleh was just dumb. I don't know what it was supposed to have accomplished. I don't know that it will accomplish anything. The team already knew that they needed to wake up. So, I don't know. We'll see, but I'm not expecting the Jets to be a playoff team.
Yeah, no, I don't. I get why you do this, especially as a general manager. I mean, you never get this job very often. In fact, most people don't get this job. So, I mean, you got to do whatever it takes. But, yeah, I don't think that Davante Adams landing there is, even really making this a playoff team. There's so many issues on this team. And to me, it comes down to more than just the football team. Like you mentioned with Aaron Rodgers, he's got such a big ego. Devontae Adams has a big ego, like it's just like there's a lot of things going on this team that there's not good chemistry. And that is really important when it comes to a team sport. You could have all the superstars in the world, but if you can't figure out where to go with the ball every play, it's just not going to work. Now, I was excited to see the Breece Hall just, domination, especially in lieu of the new wide receiver weapon. I think that has opened up the field for him. Do you think that that'll continue, or do you think we'll start to see Braylon Allen get worked in a bit more like he was early in the season?
No, I think the new head coach is more of let's feed our guy here and get him going. Sometimes running backs just need a few carries to get themselves going, and as the game goes on, they get stronger. And Braylon Allen can be a great change of pace. I mean, that guy's such a load. They'll probably continue to use him some around the goal line and all that. But I think probably other than Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, the person who's most infected in a positive way is going to be Breece Hall. But a lot of that again comes from the coaching staff, and this is a defensive minded coach that's in charge again, and they're going to want to run the ball, control the clock, all the stuff that defensive coordinators typically ask out of their offenses.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. And I want to ask you about DeAndre Hopkins, but before we get to that, we did get a super chat from Adrian. So I like to just go ahead and answer those. Thank you for sending that super chat in, Adrian. Really appreciate your support. They want to know if they should drop Baker Mayfield for Tua. I'm assuming this is a single QB question. I don't think I can do that. But I am curious what your thoughts are.
It is a dangerous move. I mean, I understand that, Baker might take a step back, but he's also always relentlessly targeted running backs.
Yeah.
And they have 3 very good pass-catching running backs. So I think that the offense is going to mutate, but I don't think that Baker's going to take a huge step back. Tua, you're taking a huge chance when you hit your wagon to Tua, especially if you don't have a backup quarterback. And if you're going to have a backup quarterback, then I would say just keep Baker, add Tua, see what happens. If you're not going to have a backup quarterback, I'd feel much safer with Baker.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I don't mind taking a swing on Tua, and I don't mind starting Tua over Mayfield, but sending Mayfield to the wire, I think is not the right move at all. We talked about it on yesterday's episode. If you wanted to go check that out, just kind of breaking down all the news and stuff. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, that's a huge, huge loss for this team. But Liam Cohen's already come out and said, that they're just going to operate differently. Yeah, it's a big loss, but they do have some guys who can step up in different ways, and it's just going to be a different looking offense. But like you said, he's going to be able to hit Rachaad White. We see in the chat, K. Dotton, he's fine. Jalen McMillan, he's stepped up. Sterling Shepard and Mayfield already have a great connection together, going back to college. There's a way to find success here. It's not going to be QB2 like it has been, but he's probably still a QB1 over the next few weeks, right around the QB10 to 14 range, I would assume. And that's not bad. So I would get Tua and maybe play it on the matchup. Baker does have a tough matchup against the Falcons defense this week. And, Tua's got a cake matchup against the Cardinals, but otherwise can't drop Baker. I think we're locked right there.
Agreed. But yeah, if you can hold them both, then playing Tua this week is probably a good one, because he does have that nice, easy matchup.
For sure. Cool. Now, let's go ahead and get to DeAndre Hopkins. He's landed in Kansas City, looking like he's going to play this week. I told the audience yesterday, start him in your flex spot. I think he might find the end zone. I'm feeling good about him finding the end zone this week. I think that he's going to be a big part of the red zone offense, especially for Kansas City. Not sure about the whole volume. I don't know where he's at in his point in career in terms of getting 8+ targets a game, but I think he'll be pretty consistent. I like the landing spot a lot for DeAndre Hopkins for Kansas City. What were your kind of takeaways from seeing this, and what are your expectations?
Yeah, so wide receivers with this much experience, they always seem to be able to just kind of latch right on with a new offense, and they find ways that they can work them in, because they're not trying to still figure out how to run NFL routes, beat NFL cornerbacks, all that kind of stuff like younger receivers are. And so they know what they can do and do well. Usually the offensive coordinator will design game plans around that, especially in their first week or two. So I think Hopkins is going to be involved. To me, the question is he really healthy? And I'm guessing the Chiefs would not have made the trade if they didn't feel like he was.
Yeah, he did pass the physical.
Right.
whatever that means.
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, he looked terrible in Tennessee. I thought he might be washed. He definitely seemed to be struggling with injuries. So I
Mhm.
was a little bit surprised at the deal. And I thought that, you know, I thought they might go a different way, but they did go with Hopkins. The price was definitely very nice.
Yes.
He does fit in the area of the field where they need a lot of help, fitting into that Rashee Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Mhm.
That's a natural spot for Hopkins to be. So that I understand the fit. So it'll be fascinating to see how that works out and affects the offense.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. I will say this. I don't think the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. There's just no way. There's just no way. They can't keep getting away with it.
I think that's right. That's right. Yeah, I want to know when Fred and Shaggy and Scooby finally capture Patrick Mahomes and they yank the wig off. Who is underneath there? That's the big question. Who is it actually? Is that I don't know. But it's definitely not Patrick Mahomes.
No, I don't know what's going on. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick under there. Now, I do have a question from the chat. We'll answer it since we're on topic before we move on. They were offered DeAndre Hopkins for Kareem Hunt. I think I would take it. I think I would. I think that Pacheco's able to return in like 2-3 weeks. So it's a gamble. Kareem Hunt's awesome right now, but I think that D-Hop you'll be excited to have for the playoff run if you're trending that way, Trip. I'm curious what Dan's thoughts are here.
Yeah, that's an interesting deal. I mean, really, it's going to kind of come down to what do you need. Running back and finding a running back who's doing what Hunt is doing is really hard. But if you're stacked at running back and you feel like you've got the depth to trade him away, then yeah, that's probably a deal I would make because I do think Hopkins could offer your wide receiver core potentially a pretty big boost. But again, you're taking a chance. You're trading away somebody who's doing really well, and I understand the specter of Pacheco coming back, but also Hunt is doing so well that I think they can give Pacheco just as long of a ramp as he needs to be ready. I don't think they're at this point going to rush him back or anything like that. And I don't think that Kareem Hunt is just going to die and go away once Pacheco is back either. I mean, I think this is a split backfield for sure the rest of the way.
All right. So two kind of varying opinions. And ultimately, I think I agree. It comes down like if you need the wide receiver, sure. But if you are looking, you need the running back help the next few weeks, you probably just got to ride out Hunt as long as you can. Now, speaking of running backs, we got a comment in the chat. I didn't see this actually, but Christian McCaffrey is expected to be back week 10. Could be pretty huge. All right, I mean, obviously you're going to be firing up Christian McCaffrey when he comes back, but you starting to send out some offers? Have you been sending out offers? Just what's a brief overview of this Christian McCaffrey situation to you?
Actually, he's probably my number one sell right now.
I don't mind that.
Because, often the best time to sell injured players is just before they return to play. Everybody's kind of getting their expectations all lathered up, and, CMC, yeah, 25 points a game. Jordan Mason's not going away, people.
No, he's not.
He's just not. And, maybe McCaffrey can still hit, 70 to 80% of what he used to hit, but, because he'll be still used in the high leverage situations. But if they're going to use a hammer around the goal line, they're probably going to use Mason, So the situation has changed for McCaffrey. And also, these Achilles strains, calf strains, all that kind of stuff. I'm very leery because it's real easy to re-injure when you have an injury like that. And so, to me, I think the sharpest move is probably, he's an aging running back, all that. I would probably just sell on this year. If you're on Dynasty, you maybe got some more to think about with it. But, if you're talking redraft, great time to sell in Dynasty. I would definitely explore that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that will really come into play here is where the 49ers are at in terms of their record. It's very likely that they're still pretty firmly in the playoff hunt when he does return. And if that's the case, they're going to ramp him up fairly slowly to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. But if they continue to rack up these losses, I could see a world where they really get desperate and need Christian McCaffrey out there, especially with all the injuries piling up in the way they are. So I would definitely say exercise some patience, put him on the block, send out some offers as well. Really, I'm just curious what the market looks like for him in your league. It is going to kind of vary. So play around. Have some fun this weekend, guys. Try to sell him. try to buy him for a reasonable price as well, and just kind of test the waters. I think this is a fun situation. That's gonna. I mean, I picked him up in a guillotine league a few weeks ago, just cause, I mean, hey, he was available, threw him on the IR, hoped he'd return, and I'm hoping he comes back well. I'll tell you that much. It makes that guillotine team a winner. But I am gonna try to also see what I could get just in case, because you need the players.
Right, exactly. And I play in a lot of leagues where there's no trading. They're contest leagues, or they're standalone high stakes, and those they just don't allow trading in those leagues. And I have a little bit more McCaffrey than I would like to have had, given how things have turned out. So I have some teams that are desperate for him to come back. So I'm definitely hoping he returns to play and does well. I'm wishing good things for him.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We're manifesting the good Christian McCaffrey vibes upon return.
Yes, please.
We've missed him enough. He'll come back and play well. Now, I want to get into some more takes, reactions to the season, look into Week 8 a little bit. But before we get into that, I want to play a little bit of an ad break. Let's hear about the DFS Dominator tool.
Hey, I know DFS may have peaked, but there are still hundreds of thousands of people to play and millions of dollars up for grabs every week. So let's put our hoodie on and let's talk about Player Profiler's DFS Dominator. It has a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Billy and Theo and Bradley and Evan and that Player Profiler AI engine to create cash game lineups that certainly have a high floor, but also give you that ceiling. Now, you've probably heard about the most powerful tool of all, our Lineup Genius. We know winning GPPs requires a completely different approach, which is why our Lineup Genius takes you through the process of selecting the quarterbacks in the juiciest matchups. Then it highlights the stacks and runbacks that are available, lets you pick the chalk level, lets you pick the level of correlation with a number of other proprietary settings available to you. Click a button and it generates hundreds of lineups to be imported into FanDuel and DraftKings. And it's just $45 a year, not a week, a year. So for that reason alone, if you play DFS, you'd be an idiot not to buy the DFS Dominator.
I absolutely love that DFS Dominator tool. If you guys have not checked it out yet, highly recommend it. It's just nice. You get underdog pick generator on top of the DFS lineup tool. Tons of great stuff. Really helps you make some money. I mean, build a lineup with the tool, enter all the free DraftKings and FanDuel contests, and maybe you'll come out with like $5-10 for nothing. Some good stuff has come out of there. So highly recommend that tool. Now, Dan, we are heading into Week 8, which is essentially mid-season. I know we have an odd number of weeks nowadays, but still, we still treat Week 8 as mid-year. And I'm curious just kind of how things are looking for you, some of your reactions to the season so far, some expectations going forward. But we're going to start. You had a lot of great takes heading into this year. I actually went back and kind of skimmed through our Wake and Take episode earlier this summer. Great job. You had Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. You had Zach Ertz being productive. You said get Stephon Diggs. I mean, great stuff there. But what's a take that hasn't gone so well? Who's kind of burning you so far this year?
Probably the Chiefs passing offense. I was all in on them. I thought Mahomes had a very good shot at being the overall QB1 again. I was overweight on Mahomes, on Worthy, on Hollywood, I was kind of even on Rice, not overweight, but but basically, yeah, the entire passing offense I was heavy on, and it just has not worked out very well so far.
Yeah, that was one I kind of fell victim to too. I got very starry-eyed when I was looking at Patrick Mahomes. I was like, oh yeah, he's got all his weapons back. We're getting the 4,500, 40 touchdown Patrick Mahomes season. Has been the exact opposite. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league so far, somehow. And I don't really get it, but yeah, that's kind of one that burned me as well. I didn't get any Kelsey, at least, and of course now that's starting to burn me. So just totally wrong on the Chiefs offense, really, which is
yeah. Kelsey was probably my
Mahomes.
only fade there. So I'm right there with you. I just didn't have that much Kelsey. Yeah. Though this last week he really didn't do much. So maybe we're still right, Jason.
That's true. That's true. And now DeAndre Hopkins is there, going to take his touchdown. So you're right. We were good. We're still good to fade Travis Kelsey.
Yep.
Now, what take are you like super proud of? What has really been proven right that you're like, man, I really am Dan the man?
Well, yeah, I mean, you hit a couple of them. Along with Diggs on the Texans, I was heavy on Mixon as well. I just thought that was a great fit. A lot of people were, just didn't seem that interested. I couldn't believe how cheap Mixon was during draft season. So I loaded up on that. And then the Falcons skill players were another one that I was really, really excited about, which is really weird because Cousins hasn't done all that well, yet the Falcons skill players have all performed either mostly as well as we thought or, even better than possibly we thought, as in Drake London. Drake London's looking like a top 5 receiver.
I know. It's crazy. I love that one. The Falcons offense has been incredible. Even down to Ray McLeod for some reason. But damn, Tyler Algier taking the Kirk Cousins touchdowns. that's really the only thing that's holding it back is damn Tyler over there taking the Kirk touchdowns. But otherwise, it's been incredible. I'm still feeling good about my Kyle Pitts shares. I know a lot of people were giving up on him, but I think it's fine. Like, I really don't think we need to be panicking about Kyle Pitts at all. Drake London, well exceeding expectation. Darnell Mooney a stud. Bijan Robinson getting back on track. Tyler Algier a flex play week in, week out. I mean, it's good stuff. And now the Buccaneers picking up the injuries, looking like the Falcons are going to win the South. Pretty exciting time down here in Atlanta. That was a good call, as well as the Mixon one. Because in that range, I mean, you could kind of pick your poison on old running back that has all of the chops, right? Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. And at this point, I think Joe Mixon was the right choice. Alvin Kamara is losing some steam. Aaron Jones pretty hit or miss. Mixon's just been, he's been the Texan. So that was a really, really great call.
Yeah, who would have thought that Stroud was going to come in and pass for like 100 yards against Green Bay, and that Mixon would.
I think that's the one that's starting to burn me the most, actually.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about Stroud. Sorry. I thought he was being overdrafted, but he had such great skill players around him. It was hard not to at least take some shots on him.
I know. I was one of those people like CJ Stroud's the new dynasty QB1. Oh man. Oh well. Now, so that's your good take, your bad take. What's just something so far this season that's kind of caught your eye, whether it be a player that's played a little bit better than you thought or a team just in general, something that's a thought from this season?
Yeah, my thought is more on a team that's really hasn't played up to expectation. That's Dak and the Cowboys offense as a whole. I knew the running game probably wasn't going to be great. I mean, when you go into it with Dowdle and the corpse of Zeke Elliott, things aren't going to be great on the ground. But even the scheme, I don't think has been really very good. I think Brian Schottenheimer has been exposed as an offensive coordinator again, and Dak just looks out of sorts. And then their defense is now all of a sudden, they haven't been able to trust their defense like normal. Like the Cowboys' offense plays much better from ahead than behind, and lately they've been having to play from behind too much. And now they go into San Francisco. I don't know. I mean, it's not looking great for the Cowboys. I think they're probably going to be a little bit of a disappointment the rest of the way. I'm hoping they can get things back together because I certainly, I've bankrolled a few pieces of this offense, so I would like to see that happen. But I don't know. It doesn't look promising to me. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. It has been painful almost, especially like I was very excited about this offense. You know it. Ryan Flournoy, I was getting deep on this thing. I was like, this is an exciting offense. There's a path for even this wide receiver 6 to make some noise. And then its first catch turns into a fumble.
Oh, yeah. That's not great.
No, it's not. And the Cowboys are in complete disarray. And I don't know they might get better, at least from a fantasy perspective. I'm sure CeeDee Lamb will start to score the touchdowns, hopefully. He started off last year slow. But, it's hard to draw any path forward when you don't have a run game. And this is why I hate why the running back market is so cheap right now and why it's so disrespected. Because if you don't have a running game, you can't pass. You just can't. They're too one-dimensional. There's no threat in that backfield. And so teams are just like, they're able to stop them very, very easily. So I hope they make a move. I don't know even who you can make a move for at this point if you're a Cowboy in the running back room, but someone has to save that backfield or else this team is not even going to make it to the playoffs, really. And no, I'm not giving up on Flournoy. I'm just saying, the Cowboys, part of that take was that the Cowboys would be good, but they're bad. They're so bad.
Yep, exactly. And also with what Tolbert had shown leading into the season, bankrolling anybody else kind of seemed like it might be a good idea.
Yeah.
And Tolbert has he's actually performed pretty decently this season, which definitely doesn't help Flournoy's case.
No. And Brandon Cooks comes back next week. So, oh well, maybe next year. Or maybe something, we still got time. You're right. I'm not giving up. Ryan Flournoy's still happening.
Stash him on your practice squad and just, let him sit there for a while. It'll be good.
Yes. I like this take, actually. Applied Literature says they should get one of the Bucks RBs. Just throw Sean Tucker over there. Give Tampa a fourth or something. Honestly, probably not even that. Probably a sixth. A pick swap. You get some Sean Tucker over there. It will be exciting.
Yeah, Miles Sanders. Try for Travis Etienne, maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of running backs out there that should be available. Khalil Herbert should be available.
Yeah.
So there's options if the Cowboys choose to pursue it.
I hope they do. I really hope they do. I think that would help a lot. Let's go ahead and head into Week 8. Let's check out Week 8. Who's a player that you're keeping a close eye on this week? Whether it be, an injury's fallen their way, you want to see how they perform. Maybe they're returning to the field and you just want to see maybe the backfield split. Who knows? But what player are you just really, really watching out for this week? You're excited to see how they perform.
Yeah, I think one of the more interesting situations out there is Jonathan Taylor coming back to the Colts. It's a really interesting situation with the quarterbacks because Richardson has not looked good. He looked his best when Taylor was playing, and I don't think the two are necessarily that closely tied. Sometimes things just happen at the same time that aren't necessarily related. But can Taylor survive in this offensive situation that they find themselves in with Richardson playing so poorly, or can he somehow help Richardson become a better quarterback because teams are going to have to focus a little bit more on Taylor. So that whole situation I think is going to be a good one to watch over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I got my first, well, not my first, but my only now. I've had Jonathan Taylor dynasty shares over the years, but I got him back in one league, and I'm kind of excited just to see how it goes. I traded Brock Purdy for Bo Nix and Jonathan Taylor. I feel excited about it. Needed some RB help, and Bo Nix kind of has a little bit of a floor right now. So I think it was a fun little move. So I'm very much invested in the Jonathan Taylor return, especially for my Anthony Richardson shares, like you said. I think that, like we talked about with the Cowboys, having a little bit better of a run game should help the pass game. Although Anthony Richardson is pretty terrible at throwing the ball. He's so bad. He's so bad. But hopefully just a little bit more balanced and just opening up a little bit, maybe opening running lanes for Richardson as well. Who knows? We did call on yesterday's Wake and Take to start Anthony Richardson against the Texans. We'll see. We'll see. I just can't give up on that athleticism, and I do think Jonathan Taylor returning should help. So that's a good call. Now, give me a player that you are definitely starting and or sitting. Give me a start sit that is from you this week definitively.
All right. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you to start, Jamar Chase or anything like that. You know that. Everybody knows that. Let's move on to something more interesting. I think if I can find ways to do it, I'm probably going to sit Marvin Harrison Jr. The Dolphins defend the wide receiver well, and he and Murray are just not connecting very well right now. And so, his past 3 games basically have been either single digits or not playing. It's a dangerous move. So I'm not doing it just willy-nilly, but if you've got other good wide receivers and you can afford to do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's not connecting. It's a good defense. You have the options. I'm not against it. I, unfortunately, the only leagues I have, Marvin Harrison Jr., lost my only other kind of feasible option in JMO for the next couple weeks. So I'm going to still have to start Marvin Harrison Jr. But that's another player. We go back to the takes. I mean, I was pretty firm on Marvin Harrison Jr. being great out of the gate. And I know he's had some of those ceiling games and he scored those touchdowns, but something definitely isn't right. I'm not sure what it is. I'm hopeful that the last 2 weeks were more of a part of his concussion and just not being able to get part into the game plan and practice during the week and stuff like that. But great players, that doesn't normally hinder them either. Like Malik Neighbors was able to go out there and play a lot better in his game back. I'm sure Tua's going to be fine this week, even coming back from a concussion. So it's definitely time to start raising those alarms for Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he's still a top dynasty wide receiver, but something isn't happening. And for the foreseeable future, you do definitely have to ask yourself if you really want that player in your lineup, as much as it sucks. So that's a good call as well. Dan the man.
So here's my question for you, Jason. If somebody offered you, say, Brian Thomas and something else on top for Marvin Harrison Jr., would you do it?
I actually saw someone do a 1-for-1 swap this morning on Twitter. I looked through, somebody did Marvin Harrison Jr. for Brian Thomas Jr. I still have Marvin Harrison ahead. I would be looking for something on top, but I don't know if you could really get it. I think I would want like a first on top, to be honest with you. And because a second, I feel like a little too low, and I don't think you're going to be able to get that. Brian Thomas hype is crazy right now. The Marvin Harrison fade is, also kind of crazy right now. So it's tough. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think I don't think he can get that first anymore. The second just feels a little bit light. I mean, if you can get an early second, maybe, maybe have him throw in one other player or something. Just something to get a little bit more juice on top of that second would be nice.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, Brian Thomas looks the part in Jacksonville, really does look like an alpha, and kind of unlocking Trevor Lawrence. Now, that was the Patriots last week, so hopefully we'll kind of see with another week if they can build upon the kind of confidence boost they get, which generally happens. I mean, a team beats up on a team. Generally, they can kind of use that to move forward, so I am curious to see how it goes. Brian Thomas doing a lot to help his dynasty value, but I've got to stay firm in Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that player is too good, been too productive with too good of a profile to fail. I think, at least. I mean, I don't know. I would be shocked.
I hope so too. I've got some shares in Dynasty, and I'm still holding tight for now. But yeah, if I could. I like what I'm seeing out of Brian Thomas Jr. I think that guy's for real. So
yeah,
and he was a guy I was on the fence on. I was taking Worthy over him most of the time in Dynasty, and I wish at least once I'd reversed that.
Yeah, definitely. I was at least taking Brian Thomas over McConkey, but yes. I mean, man, I should have been taking him over like Benson, Brooks, probably Worthy.
Yeah,
at this point too. So, man.
I mean, I'm still holding out hope for Worthy, but right now, BTJ's got it all going.
Yeah, I mean, people in the chat, we have two people saying that they wouldn't even trade BTJ for Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up.
Okay, there you
and
go.
Literature pointing out that he was actually named a team captain this week, which is huge for just his status within the organization. So BTJ to the moon. Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know. Somewhere.
Failed to lift off so far, so hopefully they can they can reset him on the launching pad and let's get going.
Yeah, he's just still staying in Orlando right now. He'll get there, but he hasn't been able to hit the ship yet. Now, who are some streamers that you're recommending this week? You write a great article every week at PlayerProfiler, so feel free to plug that. Who are some players you mentioned?
Yeah, so I've got probably my number one would be Sterling Shepard. I think he's gonna really he's gonna be in a great spot. I mean, we talked about him a little bit already. He slides into the slot very well, which is the Godwin role, which has kind of been the more productive role in this offense. So, Sterling Shepard, I think, is probably the guy that you're going to end up wanting on this offense the rest of the year. I think McMillan is great while Evans is out, but McMillan's still rookie, still got some things to figure out. So you can't 100% go towards him. And my article, as you mentioned, it's called Lucid Streams. It's deep sweepers at wide receiver and tight end. Basically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get way down there, like when there's a lot of bye weeks going on and you really need to dig deep. Maybe you got to go onto the waiver wire. Maybe you're dropping to the bottom of the roster. You got to dig deep. But a couple other of mine, I've got Elijah Moore on there. Rashad Bateman, maybe not quite so deep anymore, but with Zay Flowers likely to miss time. I think you're going to be happy that you start Bateman this week. And Mason Tipton, I think, is my deep play for the Saints. We got Shaheed on IR. I know that MVS is there. I'm not an MVS fan, so I think Tipton and Rattler had some pretty good chemistry going. I think that could happen again. And at tight end, a couple of them. I'm right back on the Jonnu Smith train. I don't think he can put the toothpicks back in the tube here. I think he's going to be a part of this offense. He does what McDaniels wants out of that tight end position. Does it really well. He wants a guy like Kittle who can block well, who's really fast, can make some moves after the catch, and that's what Jonnu Smith is. So, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, that was a one-off. I don't think it was one-off. I think that, after a couple games in this offense, Smith is starting to find his role. McDaniels is figuring out the best ways to use him. That's not going to change when Tua comes back. We've got Waddle and Tyreek, and they're going to get more for sure. But I think just the whole pie is going to be bigger. So I don't think just them getting more is necessarily going to lead to Jonnu getting a lot less. I mean, last week isn't happening again, but he can still have very productive games.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, Jonnu Smith was a lot of people's favorite kind of second, third tight end and best ball builds this offseason. And we're kind of seeing why. I mean, he's going to have those spike weeks. And, there's only three things inevitable in life. It's death, taxes, and Jonnu Smith scoring a really big touchdown at some point. So I like that call. I really like the Sterling Shepard call. The Falcons have been getting eaten alive by the slot this year. A.J. Terrell does a really good job on the outside. So I could see Palmer and or McMillan struggling and Baker Mayfield just looking for Shepard. And the Mason Tipton call good too. I mean, there's just no one in New Orleans. There's just no one in New Orleans. Somebody has to catch some passes. So go read that article. I'm sure there's some other ones mentioned on there as well. It comes out every single week at playerprofiler.com/articles. Dan finds the guys. He goes deep, as you just heard. Guys. And there's some really great insight in players that you're probably able to pick up. And 75% or more of your leagues, I'm sure that most of those players we just talked about are available still in most leagues. So I like that call a lot, Dan. Thank you for that advice. Let's get to the money moves. This is my favorite part of the show. I love making moves. I'm a big trading guy. I love trading. I really do. And I know you said you're in a lot of tournament stuff, but hey, I know you get some trades as well. I know you do. Before we get to the buys and sells, who's just a player you're making sure you're stashing right now? You're just picking them up or maybe sending out, buying low, really, really low, and just throwing on your bench, hoping for the best.
Yeah, Ty Chandler is definitely my stash. The way Aaron Jones has been getting used the past 3 weeks, he's going to break sooner or later. It's a lot that they're putting on his plate. I'm a little bit surprised that they aren't working Chandler in more right now. But the thing is, Aaron Jones, either one of two things is going to happen. Either they've got to slack off on his usage, in which case that's going to benefit Chandler, or Jones is going to end up hurt, which is also going to benefit Chandler. And I think Chandler is, he's not Aaron Jones' skill level, but he's a good enough running back, that you'll be able to throw him in your lineup in flex position if he's got the job to himself, for sure.
Definitely. I mean, I love Cam Akers. I really do, unfortunately, but he's not that good, and he's not going to take enough from Ty Chandler to be usable if anything happens to Aaron Jones. Now, and they bought Aaron Jones to run him into the ground. It was pretty clear what the Vikings are doing with that signing. So I agree with you. He's a really good stash. For me, I'm never giving up on Kamani Vidal. You guys will never see me give up on Kamani Vidal and Ryan Flournoy as well. So if you guys want some deeper stashes as well, those are three good ones for you guys. Throw them on your dynasty roster, benches, and or taxi squad. I guess you can't throw Chandler on the taxi squad. Throw him on your bench.
Yep, exactly.
Good stash right there for sure, especially in redraft for the rest of the season. Now, you can only buy one player right now. You're given a coupon. You're able to get any player. Who you getting?
I'm gonna stick with my priors. I'm going back to the well. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm saying Xavier Worthy.
Okay, I like it.
Let's go, yeah. Xavier. I think his value is beaten down. He had 8 targets last week. Mahomes has just flat out missed him wide open several times. And, it took Rashee Rice up till week 12 to really start to click with this offense. We saw what he turned into. Xavier Worthy he's a receiver that I really like coming out of college, and not just because he was fast. I mean, we expected when he was going to, into the draft process, we said, yeah, he's probably going to be a late first round pick. And that's exactly what he was. And, even though he ran such a blistering pace, it didn't push him up into the top of the first round or anything like that. He went right where we expected. He's not just a track star. He's somebody who knows how to play the wide receiver position. He can catch the ball. He can run routes. He does all the things you need to be able to do. So, I like Worthy. If his current manager is starting to sour on him a little bit, now is definitely the time to be making those offers.
I love that call. We did it every Wednesday on Wake and Take. We do a market watch, my top 8 buys and sells. We're buying DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy. That's the Wake and take right there. I love Xavier Worthy, especially I think the DeAndre Hopkins move helps him. I really do. I think that'll help open up the field a little bit. And, I mean, historically, Chiefs wide receivers aren't very productive their rookie season. I mean, Rashee Rice took the second half of the season, and Xavier Worthy has at least been productive even early. I mean, the 2 touchdowns week 1. So I think that Xavier Worthy has better days ahead. Definitely buy him while you still can. I checked on Keep Trade Cut on Wednesday. Not sure if it's changed too much, but I mean, he was wide receiver 30 in Dynasty. And I don't know. He was like wide receiver 16 at some point this year, early in the year. He's lost a lot of value. And we see in the chat, I mean, would you rather have Xavier Worthy or Jalen McMillan? And that's exactly why Xavier Worthy's a buy right now. Of course you'd rather have Worthy. So I like that call a lot. That's a great, great buy. Who are you selling? You get rid of?
Well, that was Christian McCaffrey, but since we already talked about him, I'll throw out another sell. I would be kicking the tires on how much can I get for James Cook. I think he's kind of overperformed in the touchdown department. I think Ray Davis is going to be a little bit more involved. Ty Johnson has always been there. So we could see Cook's kind of ceding a little bit more work to these other guys as we go forward. So, I wouldn't just sell him to sell him, but if you can find somebody who's really excited about Cook, go out there and make that deal.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get Xavier Worthy plus for James Cook right now, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, and I think that that's a fun move. I agree with you too. James Cook, unfortunately, just doesn't have the size to get the workload that we want him to. He's always going to rely on efficiency. And I know that Ray Davis is the RB3, but he just looked so good a couple weeks ago. I really do think by the end of the year, they're going to continue to ramp him up as the RB2 in Buffalo. And he's going to take just some of those really valuable touches. He is. And so I would definitely also be looking to sell James Cook. I think for the most part, I would be looking to see what I could add to tier up. But I'm sure there's some good tier down options as well, especially if you want to get a little bit older. Like if you want to see if you could get a Derrick Henry plus, a Joe Mixon plus. Those are some interesting options out there. So that's another great call, Dan. Keep it up, man. You're killing it today.
Imagine trying like James Cook in a second, see if you can move up to Kenneth Walker.
Yes.
Something like that. That would be perfect.
Exactly. Maybe Devon Achane right now. Maybe people have soured over the last couple of weeks with Tua coming back. I think Devon Achane will be good again. So, that's a really fun call. I think that there's a lot of different options out there as it pertains to James Cook because he's got the youth, he's got the production, he's got the athleticism. That's an asset that people usually really, really like to pay up for. So definitely put him on the block, see what you could get. Now, we had another super chat before we move on to the next topic. So I just want to ask Adrian Michael, thank you for the chat. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this question. Unfortunately, I don't think it's actually going to work out for you. I believe Keaton Mitchell was activated off of IR or expected to be this week. I think he already was. So I'm not sure if you can even put him in your IR spot. I mean, if you have the room to stash Keaton Mitchell, we like him, but it's probably not going to be this year. Like this is probably more of a dynasty stash than anything as it pertains to Keaton Mitchell. What are your thoughts on Mitchell?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I do think they are going to try to find ways to work him into the offense because he is a special player, he's explosive and all that. But, we've seen that the coaching staff really trusts Justice Hill, and Justice Hill has repaid that trust. And they signed Hill to an extension. So that tells me that they're really, interested in keeping things pretty much as they have been. And they're going to work in Mitchell around the edges more so than anything. I don't think he's coming in and taking any significant part of Hill or Henry's job. So But overall, yeah, you want to use all those bench spots. If you can't put Mitchell there, find somebody that you can put there. If you're going through any league and you have empty spots on your IR, you're just not doing it right. You want to make sure you've got as many players on your team under your control as possible. So when or if they pop, you've already got them. You don't have to pay for them.
Yep. Use those spots. I mean, the amount of times I've dropped a player that I know was a deep stash just to pick up someone to throw into my R and pick up that player again. Just really, really work those roster spots. Keith Mitchell's a good one to start doing that. Rasheen Ali as well on that same team if you just want to get a Ravens back. But there's just so many players just out there in general that you should be able to throw on your bench that, especially if this is redraft, I might go elsewhere than Mitchell. But still, you're doing it right just even thinking that way. So good question. Dan, I want to get your hot take. We've got 9 weeks left. What's your hot take for the rest of the season?
All right. We're going to stick with the Ravens here.
Okay.
I'm going to say Derrick Henry breaks Eric Dickerson's 40-year-old record of 2,105 yards rushing, and he ties Emmitt Smith with 25 rushing TDs. That's the fourth most all time. He's going to have 30 total TDs, one short of LT's 31 in 2006. All at 30 years old.
I love it. I love it. Where is he at right now? I'm going to pull it up.
So right now he's got 873 yards on the ground, 8 touchdowns. He has 62 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. So he's at 10 touchdowns right now.
Yeah.
So he's got to get 20 more the rest of the way. But here's the thing. Derrick Henry has always been a back half of the season guy. I mean, the fact that he's doing this well this early in the season is pretty unusual for him. So, and Baltimore knows what they've got. Their offensive line is just getting healthier. They're getting better at run blocking. I mean, everything is coming together for him. And, I think it could be a very special year and a historic season. And, I just want to appreciate it as it happens. I think he's a lot of fun to watch every week. So easy guy to root for.
Yeah, I mean, he is the king. It's just incredible what he's doing after being in the league so long. Just a match made in heaven in Baltimore, really. I mean, it's almost unfair that they were able to get him. I love that take. I hope it happens. Probably means I'll win at least one of my championships, which will be nice. So,
no doubt. Yeah, but it's he's the outliers outlier. I mean, it just I know people say, well, running back has a short shelf life and all of that kind of stuff, but there are players who are outliers, and he is one of them. And he's just, I think, a special case. The way that he blends that weight and speed and how he handles contact and everything, it's just fantastic.
Yep. I mean, he takes really good care of his body, has a really, really just kind of strict diet, and that's going to help. He's Tom Brady in the running back room. With an extra 100 pounds of muscle.
I like that. Yes, Tom Brady in the running back room. Perfect way to put it.
All right, man. This has been an awesome show. Love your takes. Just love chopping it up with you in general, man. I know you've had a great season so far. I wish you the best on the rest of the season. Tell the people where they can find more of your work. I'm sure they would like to consume more Dan Williamson content.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it. You get out there and do those dynasty trades, people. Now is the time. People are buying and selling like crazy, so get some offers out there. Make sure people know you're a player and not just somebody who's sitting on the sidelines. You can catch me on Fantasy Empire every week right now. Myself, Chris Vaccaro, Nelson Sousa, and Matt Modica. We get together and we look at things from a kind of a high stakes perspective, which basically means that we're talking about 12-team leagues with deep rosters, 20-player rosters. So we have to go a little bit deeper than a lot of more casual leagues. Mm-hmm. But also, everything that we're talking about there applies to every league. I mean, really, if you want to understand how to play fantasy football better, if you want to win your league, this is a show for you. It doesn't matter what stakes you're playing for. If you're playing for, $5 or just bragging rights in the office or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's still a great show for you. You can pick up things every week. I mean, just talking to those guys, I'm picking up stuff from them. They're picking up stuff from me. We're learning together. And, so that's my favorite kind of show to be involved in, is where, we're really searching and seeking for what's going to work rather than just talking about what's already happened. So make sure you check that out. And we had talked about it already. I read an article called Lucid Streams. It's basically deep streaming stuff for those who really need to get down into the nitty gritty at wide receiver or tight end. I not only write those takes, but I use them almost every week myself, because I am in a lot of deep leagues, and I've got a lot of teams, and I do have some teams that are in trouble at wide receiver or tight end pretty much every week. So yeah, you'll find me using the advice that I'm putting out there too.
Yeah, man. Audience, I messaged Dan earlier this week, get the confirmation he's coming on, tell him I'd hit him up with the show sheet Wednesday or Thursday. He was like, take your time. Wednesday, I'm running waivers. You're in 68 leagues, you said?
62, I believe it 62? Is. Yeah, man. If I counted right. I've counted them up a couple times and come up with different numbers, so.
Because he is really, really out there. You know it. When he's putting out this content, you know that he's also acting on it. Really appreciate you coming on, man. As the comments say, one of the Mount Rushmores of fantasy football. You're awesome. Keep up the great work. Audience, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe. We will be back Monday for our reactions to Week 8. You all have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend. Good luck in all your matchups. We'll see you Monday. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.